Supernatural Season 10, Episode 16, Painted Black. I was excited to get to see this episode because it seemed like, at least a little bit, there was going to be a part of the main story going on in this episode, and it definitely was. From the trailer, it kind of seemed like it would just be a filler episode, but the sort of Sam Dean side of things was, just the mission, monster of the week type of deal. But the other side of things with Rowena was really a part of the main story, and we finally get to see, what the Grand Coven has become. She's been on the run for centuries now, and I think the Meneletis started in the 20s or even before that, and so all this time she's been running almost 100 extra years basically. And she finds out that the Grand Coven is kind of dwindled to nothingness because of the Men of Letters. And of course, that leads right back to Sam and Dean by the end of the episode. But it was cool to get that, where we got to see Rowena finally come up against, the main person at least of the Coven. And it's like, well, it turns out that this Grand Coven isn't so grand anymore. It's this woman and sure a bunch of other witches. I mean, they have enough witches, obviously, to send a witch to the States, which we saw in the sort of Hansel and Gretel type of episode where she was actually one of the witches from the Coven sent to take out Rowena. But it's not as big as it used to be. They don't have the grand scale of power that they used to have. A lot of their magical items have been scattered across the world, and a lot of them have been, simply put, killed off, burned at the stake or killed off by hunters or the Men of Letters themselves when they were really, up and running. But it was fun. It was interesting to finally watch that and see Rowena have her moment where it's like, I get to have my revenge. She's just beating up this woman the entire episode. And then she turns into a little hamster. And it's like, I've been running all my life. Now you get to run and stuff. And, her and Crowley seem to have a little bit of a connection early on in the episode where Crowley decided, fine, I will do something for you. I'll help you out. I've kind of thought about things. If someone took my one source of, almighty power as the king of hell, I'd be a little bit bored and upset. So I sympathize with you, and, here she is. Here's a woman you wanted to torture. So it was a cool little bonding moment for them, and then it kind of got completely destroyed by the end of the episode where they were kind of back at square one. She got her revenge on the woman, but she found out that the Men of Letters, or at least the last little connection to the Men of Letters, is Sam and Dean. So, it goes right back to where it was before, where she's like, Crowley, you're kind of just, you're their bitch. You're the king of hell. You shouldn't be answering to the Winchesters. If anything, they should be answering to you and stuff. So, by the end of the episode, she's kind of right back where she was in the beginning of the episode, where it's like, you should not be friends with them. You should be controlling them and really killing them because they're hunters, and one of them has the mark of Cain, and if he has the blade, then he could literally kill all demons and witches on the planet. So it kind of went full circle for them, where it's like, okay, well, they're going to end up bonding in this episode. Or they had at least a little bonding moment after that. It was strictly Rowena just beating up this woman. And then, it seemed like it was going that way, and by the end of the episode, it's like, we already discussed this. I'm not going to kill Sam and Dean. And she's like, of course, dear, whatever you say. And then she walks off. And it kind of just splits them right up again by the end of the episode. And I'm really excited to see the next episode. It seems like that's going to be an actual huge main story based episode. That's all it's going to be focused on. Unfortunately, I'm behind. It's the one time it was actually good to be a week behind on the show, because it's actually going to go from this episode, which was half of it was main storyline stuff, and then the next episode is actually completely with the main storyline with Sam and Dean getting Metatron back and trying to help Dean out, and we get to see Cass in the trailer, and even Bobby's going to be coming back, at least for a little bit. I don't know if it's going to actually be him, his spirit after he died, or if it's going to be a hallucination type thing, but based on him saying, "Who made you the boss?" it seemed like it's actually going to be him. And, who knows who summoned them. It could be Rowena doing something crazy. It could actually be Sam, Dean, and Cass summoning these spirits for whatever reason they need to summon the spirits, based on whatever, Metatron ends up telling them. But I'm excited to see the episode, and I actually did enjoy this one. It was cool that at least half of it was revolved around the main storyline, and the other half was actually fairly interesting because they threw in a little twist with the ghost actually. Well, first off, her being a ghost, because I didn't think either of the women were ghosts. I figured. I actually thought initially that not Isabella, but the other woman was the one killing people. It seemed like she was asking these questions and stuff, and it's like, she's asking questions that she's not supposed to ask and things like that. I thought she was then the villain who was like killing people off, and I didn't think she was a ghost. I figured she kind of had. I thought she may have been a witch. That's what I was thinking initially, and it turns out that Isabella is actually a ghost who's from like 1570 and stuff like that, and she was like, the picture they did was like very similar to the Mona Lisa, which I thought was interesting. But it was really cool. It was like a cool little twist because I'm like, oh, okay, she's the person who's either dead or a ghost or something. I wasn't 100% sure about that either. Once it said it was 1570, I was like, okay, well, I guess she's a witch then, because especially with some of the dialogue they had where it's like, she lived for, it seemed like she lived for so long because we didn't see that she was actually a ghost. And once again, with a witch, it could be anything. It could be any sort of magical spirit. Like a witch could summon a spirit, I guess, to take over people and stuff like that. And with the other half kind of focusing on Rowena, I guess that's kind of why I instantly went to, oh, it's a witch, and this person's a witch, and then Isabella being from 1570, then she's a witch. But it was just that she was a spirit who was able to transfer there from Florence because of all the items, or mostly the painting. And it was really cool. I enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting little story they had for her character, and she was definitely betrayed at the end of the episode. That kind of sucked for her, but she was also kind of crazy. She chopped her finger off and said, "Hey, grind it into the stuff." And it's like, once you do that, it's kind of hard for someone to fall in love with you. I think that may have been the reason he didn't fall in love with her, but she kind of went crazy. She was going to mess up the painting, and then he's sleeping with someone else, and, it kind of just drove her mad. So I thought it was a pretty interesting story. I thought it was a nice little twist that she actually was a ghost, and like I said, I still thought she was a witch, and she just lived like Rowena did, and I was like, okay, so it's witches still, and, it wasn't the hex bag stuff, it could have just been anything else. Like, Rowena doesn't use hex bags, she's just incredibly powerful, so it easily could have been that, but it ended up being another ghost that they had to take on, and the ghost would take on people who cheated, but then she took on the priest and killed him because he allowed people to be forgiven, although, that's really like religion based, I guess. But I thought it was good. I thought it was pretty cool. It was an interesting little twist for her being a ghost from 1570, and also the fact that the woman, because it's always, in Supernatural, it always seems to be the person who asks all the random questions they're not supposed to ask. That's typically who the bad guy is, and she's like asking these questions, and Isabella's like, I thought we were supposed to forget the life that we left behind, and she's asking her and stuff because she has the same sort of vengeance where she kills the people, and maybe that was the point, because Isabella seemed like the one who was being innocent, and the other person was being risky and stuff. It's like, okay, well, that's because this person is the one that's the murderer. So, that's kind of my thought process when I was going through the episode, but maybe it was different for you guys. But I definitely enjoyed it. I was glad it was at least somewhat focused on the main storyline. Like I said, I obviously did enjoy the sort of case that Sam and Dean ended up having to solve and stuff, and we had a really interesting moment with Dean in the confessional where he talks about not wanting to die soon, and he feels that he's never had the feeling of death really being so imminent, except for, the one season where he was actually going to die in that season. He never really had that feeling outside of that moment, which was, I think that was only like the third season or something. So, living in this moment and having fought against Cain and stuff, and he was beat up then and kind of losing control and killing a bunch of people, having to worry about whether or not he's going to kill someone else and this and that. It was pretty cool to have that moment where he really does reflect on his life, and he says, I kind of want to have these connections and relationships and have these feelings that I've either never experienced or that I want to experience again, because they're kind of like the truest form of emotion, and it's not just crazy adrenaline and pedal to the metal type stuff. So I love that moment. I thought it was actually pretty cool, and he's in this weird state of mind where they've been dealing with the Marky Kane for a while. He even fought Kane and had to kill him, and it didn't exactly solve the issue. And so now he's just got it, and they still have to figure out what the heck are we gonna do now. We've the one lead that they had, which was Kane himself, he didn't really do anything except for kind of go nuts, and they had to stop him because he was killing a bunch of people. And so now it's just Dean has the Marky Kane, and they still don't really know what to do with it and how to get rid of it and save Dean from eventually, going nuts again and just slaughtering people, kind of like Kane, even though he was completely sane. And when it happens with Dean, he kind of blacks out for a bit, but he could get to that point. So it was kind of cool to see him in this moment where he could end up dying, not just from doing the job that he does, but it would be because he lost control of himself. It wasn't like, oh, he failed at a mission and so he died, or a demon killed him or a monster killed him. It would be because he couldn't control his own mental state, and he would lose it and kill innocent people, and then maybe Sam or Cass or maybe even Crowley would come in like, you're bad for business, and take him out or something. But I thought it was a great little moment, and it was a nice real moment within the episode. Probably like the only very serious moment between Sam and Dean in this episode, except for the very ending, which it was really short though, and it's kind of typical Dean stuff where it's like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like I didn't really say anything when I was in there. Nothing really big happened, and he kind of always brushes it off at the end of the episode. But those are some good little moments, and it was nice little bits that I hope do come up in the next episode, especially Dean in the confessional, considering it did kind of revolve around the Mark of Cain, and that's obviously what they're going to focus on in the next episode. So I'm excited for it. I did enjoy this episode, but of course I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I want to know what you guys think about the case that Sam and Dean had to go on. Like, I said I thought it was pretty good. I thought the little 1570 twist where she's actually a ghost and she's actually the killer the whole time, I thought that was actually a nice little twist. But I want to know what you guys thought about it. I thought it was fairly simple, where I think we saw 3 people really get killed. It was like the first guy who killed himself, the husband who was cheating on his wife and she didn't even know, and then of course the priest was killed. And I don't know how he was killed. He was like, when he was laying on the thing, he was like split open like it was surgery or something. I thought it just looked really intense compared to like the guy who stabbed himself with the candlestick, which was fairly intense, and it was just dragging down and splitting him open. I thought that was actually pretty intense for the show, because they don't tend to do it where it's like you see all the cuts happen when it's something deep. I mean, obviously they're always like, cut my arm or cut my hand. Obviously they did that a bunch in this episode, but they normally don't have it where it's like someone gets stabbed and then it just drags down their body and kind of rips them open. So that's something we don't normally see, so I enjoyed it. But like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.